Hello, welcome to Workplace Wake Up. I'm Jen Shaw. Every week, I spend about 15 minutes covering legal developments, introducing you to interesting guests, and providing some entertainment to start your workday. Our topic is an interesting one, and it's a little bit personal. I wanted to talk about how strategic thinking has helped us succeed at Shaw Law Group. I think a lot of folks we work with in the workplace have the expectation that they will succeed. They know what they want to do. They may even have a clear idea about how to get there, but sometimes their plan lacks a little strategy. For example, they aren't thinking ahead or they don't really have a vision down the road. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about how I started Shaw Law Group and how strategic thinking has really helped us to be successful. So back in 2005, I was a partner at a national employment law firm, Jackson Lewis, great firm. I had been a partner for a couple of years, and I decided I wanted to go out on my own with a then current partner of mine, Greg Valenza. So in 2006, we started a law firm called Shaw Valenza LLP. And we focused on employment law issues just as we do at Shaw Law Group. The only difference is that after Greg left in 2016, we stopped focusing on litigation. And now our main focus is keeping our clients out of court. So when Greg and I got the business off the ground in June of 2006, we had to think a lot about where do we want this to go? What services do we want to offer? How do we want to segment ourselves in the market? How are we going to encourage people to use our new law firm? And the good news for us was we did all of our homework. We had a lot of plans in place and we got lucky, right? We had most of the clients. In fact, I think almost every client that we had worked with looked us up and wanted to come find us so that we could help them at Shaw Valenza. And strategy became a very important part of this. And what's interesting to me is Greg was always an entrepreneur. He always had an entrepreneurial spirit. Even when I started working with him in, I believe it was 2000, he and I would talk about things. His family, his father owned a restaurant in New York, and there were a lot of things that Greg liked about having his own business and being an entrepreneur. I was actually completely the opposite. I was perfectly fine being at a big law firm, figuring out how to do what other people wanted me to do, and not really having an entrepreneurial bone in my body, to be honest. But once I started thinking about wanting to go out on my own, and there were a lot of reasons for that I won't go into, but I really thought that I could best serve our clients by not being part of a large national firm at that point and really bringing everything in-house on a smaller scale to just work with the folks we wanted to work with and make sure that we could offer the best services we could at the most efficient price. So I started thinking about strategy. And at one point, Greg and I had this conversation where we sat down and we made a checklist right after we opened the firm of where do we want this to go? How many employees do we want to have? At that point, we didn't have any, right? How many employees do we want to have? What are our practice areas going to be? How soon do we want to pay off our loans? How quickly do we want to make sure that our website is really at full capacity, what we want to do? And that planning, that strategy was painful. I just remember saying to Greg so many times, okay, enough already with the planning. Like, what else do we need to talk about? I don't want to plan my life 20 years out. Like, this is crazy. But the truth is, everything we did to plan for Shaw Valenza made us incredibly successful. And when Greg decided to leave in 2016, he actually left the practice of law. We were set. And we did change our approach. We didn't do litigation any longer. We focus on advice and counsel and training and investigations. But without that planning and that strategizing about where we wanted to be, I just don't feel like we'd have the success that we have right now. And with everything that's going on in the world right now, everything that's going on from an economic perspective, a lot of our clients talk about, well, we should do strategic planning, but it's expensive and you have to get an outside facilitator and it takes a lot of time and energy. And I get all that. But the truth is, you can sit down with a yellow pad and a pen. You don't have to have a fancy facilitator, and you don't need 3 weeks, and you don't need a spreadsheet that helps you figure out every last detail. Literally, Greg and I just sat down in our new office and just went down line by line. What do we want to do? What do we care about? What's important to us? What do we want to make sure we're not doing? And that planning, that strategy is what made Shaw Law Group what it is today. So I want to encourage everyone, whether or not you own your own business, you should be strategizing about your own career. Where do you want to go? What opportunities do you want to have in front of you? What opportunities do you need to make for yourself? If all you're doing is trying to get through day by day, which believe me, I've been there and I'm still there many days of the week, trying to juggle taking care of my daughter and making lunches and getting to the office and getting through my ridiculous number of emails and trying to give everyone the attention they deserve. I know it's a lot, but if you can carve out some time to quietly consider, what are you trying to do? What is your goal? What are your goals, plural, right? Where do you want to be? And it doesn't have to be, where do I want to be in 3 months? And where do I want to be in 6 months? And where do I want to be in a year? But strategic thinking is critical for every individual and every organization. One of the things we see with new clients when they join Shaw Law Group is they haven't done a lot of strategic planning. And that often manifests itself in problems in terms of wage hour compliance or equal employment opportunity issues that come up, or they're having a hard time retaining and recruiting good talent. So strategic planning is important, but I think it's one of those things that we sometimes can make too much of, and it feels like too big of a chore. It feels like too much for us to take on. So I think there are 3 things that you really want to stop and think about when you're considering either your personal career, where you want your department to be, where you want your company to be. The first thing is, from my perspective, what do you like? What makes you happy? I'm always telling my daughter, Ella, I don't care where you go to college. I don't care what you are when you grow up. I just want you to be happy. I just want you to do something that makes your heart happy and makes you proud and makes you want to do your best. I think that's the beginning of any strategic conversation. That doesn't mean you're going to love everything about your career choice or your job or the organization where you are right now, but think about what makes you happy. What are you really good at? One of the things Greg used to talk about a lot was, Jen, everyone to their highest and best use, right? Who should be doing what task is partially dependent on what they are good at. Yes, it would be great if we were all good at everything, but you know what? We aren't. So what we need to think about, I think, from a primary perspective is, what makes us happy? What do we want to do? What are the options out there? It may mean you're thinking about a career change. It may mean you're thinking about an organization change. You want to take your department in a different direction. But don't keep yourself in a box. I want you to really be honest with yourself about, where do I want to be? What do I want to be doing? I think that's issue number 1. Issue number 2 is, what resources do I have? Most of us, including me, do not have unlimited resources. We can't do everything we want to do when we want to do it. So when you're talking about strategic thinking, one of our employees came to me yesterday and said she wants to go to law school. And I was very excited for her. She's one of our administrative staff. And I said, okay, first thing you got to do is figure out, do you have a support system? She has 2 beautiful children. She needs to know, does she have something in place for those days when she needs to study for a final exam? Somebody's sick. She can't leave school. She's got to be there. What support system does she have? That's strategic thinking, right? You can want to go to law school, but how are you going to make it happen? How are you going to have the support in place that you need? How are you going to pay for it? Where do you want to go? What are your chances of getting a job after you graduate? These are all strategic things we think about, right? And I think law school is an easy example, because people are thinking, well, gosh, I wouldn't just jump into going to law school. Like, it wouldn't just be something I decide to do on the spur of the moment. Whereas maybe changing a job would be, or making another change in terms of what you want your focus to be. It's worth stopping to think. I think sometimes we get so overwhelmed with our cell phones and our televisions and all of the electronics and all of the multimedia and everything that's going on that we don't really have time to think. I told a client the other day, I know the answer to your question, but I want to think about it. And he said, really? Like, how long do you need to think about it for? I said, I think I need about 5 minutes. I'll call you right back. Because at that very moment, there were a line of people at my door. I had a lot of emails pinging my Outlook, and I just wanted to think about it. And sure enough, on probably minute 3, I thought of another important issue that I wanted to tell him. So sometimes you just need to stop and think. So you need to know, what are your resources? What are your capabilities? What can you do? And then the third thing I really think is important is not to look down. And what I mean by that is, imagine yourself on a high wire and never consider that you won't make it to the other side. Never consider that you're going to fall off of that wire. That's how I do my day every day. I never wake up thinking someone's going to be upset, or I'm not going to be able to get this project done, or I don't think I'm going to get along with this person today. For whatever reason, I always wake up thinking everything's going to be fine. Now, is it always fine? Far from it. There are always things that come up. But I like the idea of deciding, okay, you know what? I'm not going to fail. Yes, failing is important. We learn things from failures. I'm not saying that. There will be failures, whether you think there will be or not. But if you can start the process as part of strategic thinking with the premise, I'm on track. Once I figure out what I'm going to do here, I'm going to get it done. And that's exactly what we've done at Shaw Law Group. We have decided not to do litigation. Many people told me, you're not going to make it if you don't do litigation, Jen. Where are you going to get all the work? How are the cases going to roll in? Right now, people get sued all the time. You have a constant flow of cases coming in. What are you going to do for work? Well, I'm happy to tell you, we do not have idle time. We are very busy, and we don't do a lick of litigation. We do some administrative agency work. We definitely respond to demand letters. We help clients work with their regular litigation counsel when they are sued, but we're not doing the litigation, and we're doing better than we ever have been. We have year over year, we improve. So the bottom line is, I decided we're going to succeed without doing litigation, and we did. Now, did it happen magically? No. I have an incredible team of people who work really hard. I work really hard. None of us ever give up. We're always dedicated and motivated and trying to get to where we need to be. So I'm in no way taking credit for this on my own, okay? What I'm really saying is, believe in yourself. And some of you are thinking, Jen's an employment lawyer. Like, why is she talking about this? Because you know what happens when good people leave organizations? They take important information with them. And I am still representing that company, but the HR director left, or the VP of people, they're gone. And now we're left trying to figure out how to help this organization continue doing their good work. If people can understand and plot out their strategy for where they want to be and communicate to their coworkers, to their leaders, what they need, what their expectations are, there will be far fewer surprises. And if you as a leader are open to people telling you, hey, this is what I planned 10 years ago for myself. This is what I'd like to do. Can you help me do it? That is all part of strategic thinking. So take some time today, just 5 minutes, to think strategically about your career, your contributions to the workplace, what you do every day. I think you're going to find it is very insightful. Thanks for joining us today, everyone. We'll see you here next time. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to spread the word, please share it with others, post about it on social media, and/or rate and review it. Of course, you can also follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter, and email us at info@shawlawgroup.com.
Workplace Wake Up, including its guests and hosts, do not provide legal advice in this podcast. Do not act upon any of the information discussed in this podcast without consulting a licensed attorney in your jurisdiction.